Blessings to you all. It is my sincere hope that you are doing well, that all of you are not getting sick, and that you're taking this time to rest, and hopefully these lessons that I send out will be fairly simple to understand. If not, please make sure that you send me a message to let me know if I need to send you some extra materials to help get you through this section. So we are moving on to chapter 6-6, which is the property of kites and the property of trapezoids. But today we're just going to focus on the property of kites in this lesson. Okay, so both kites and trapezoids are quadrilaterals. And if you don't remember what quadrilaterals are, that means that they are four-sided shapes. Okay, but there are certain requirements that make up kites. Okay, they call them kites. Obviously, they're shaped like kites that you fly in the air, but they have a couple of different unique properties that are different from parallelograms, that are different from squares and rectangles and rhombuses and those things that we learned about before. Okay, so the first one is that the diagonals in the kites are perpendicular. So if I'm looking at the kite to the left and I'm looking at kite A, B, C, D, the diagonals AC and BD are perpendicular, which means that they form a 90-degree angle. Okay, so here, 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 and here. Okay, then the consecutive sides of kites are equal. Remember that the word consecutive means that they are next to each other, not across from. So if I'm looking at the consecutive sides of the kite on the left, AB is next to AD. So that means this side is equal to or congruent to this side. Okay? So that leaves BC and CD, which means this is equal to this. Okay? And our last one is at least or exactly one pair of opposite angles are congruent. So in this case, angle B would be congruent to angle D. So there's angle D and angle B. Okay, angle A and angle C are not congruent to each other. They don't look congruent to each other, so we can take that into account. The only thing that is different is that the diagonals do not necessarily bisect the angles. So if, for example, if this part of D, let's say that it's 50 degrees, that does not mean that the other half of D, so this half, it doesn't mean that that's also 50 degrees. It could be something else. Okay? So let's go ahead and move on to an example. So in example 1, it says that Lucy is framing a kite with 2 wooden dowels. She uses 2 dowels to measure 18 centimeters, 1 dowel to measure 30 centimeters, and 2 dowels to measure 27 centimeters. To complete the kite, she needs a dowel to place along KL. She has a dowel that is 36 centimeters long. About how much wood will she have left over cutting the last dowel? Okay, so let's go back through each step. So I have a kite. I'm going to label it. This part is K. At the top, J, L, and then M. Okay, first they tell me about the part that is 18 centimeters. So this portion is 18. This portion is 18. Then there's a portion that's 30 that's labeled here at the top. And then there is a portion that is 27, that's this side here, JL and LM. And then she has a dowel that is 36 centimeters long. So we have to find out how much she's going to have to cut. So basically we are trying to find this portion here in the center. So let's find out what we do know. Given that we have a kite and it has two diagonals, it actually cuts the kite into four different triangles. So I can use those triangles and find the missing sides to find out how long this dowel needs to be. That's here in the center, this green part. And then once I find that, I can subtract it from 36, and that's going to tell me how much I have left over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify. So here's a triangle here, a triangle here, a triangle here, and one here. Okay? So when I look at it, I know that this top portion, remember that that's 30. So if that's 30, half of this portion right here, this would be 15. And this is 15. So all I have to find here is this side, this small portion right here. Okay, if that's the case, I can just use Pythagorean Theorem. So I have the longest side. Remember that the right here are the right angles because the diagonals are perpendicular. So across from this right angle is C. So if I set it up, I have a squared plus b squared equals, c squared, which means I have, I'm just going to say 15 squared plus b squared, which is the side I don't know, equals 18 squared. Okay, so I have to find out what all of that is. So if I square 15, I get 225, and then plus b squared equals, and then if I square 18, I get 324. Okay, so then all I have to do is subtract the 225 so that I just have b squared by itself. So I'm going to subtract 225 from both sides. Then I'm left with b squared, and b squared is equal to, so 324 minus 225 is 99. And then if I take that number, remember I want just b, so because I'm just looking for that light blue side that we highlighted. So I'm going to say b is equal to take the square root, and that cancels this out, so we don't want that. And then the square root of 99 is, let's see, I'm going to round to the nearest tenth, and that comes out to 9.9. Okay, so we found that part. So this part here, I'm going to make some space here. This is 9.9. I don't know if you guys can see that. That doesn't look very good. Try again. Okay, it's a little better. Okay, so we have that portion. So what I'm going to do is find the other side. I'm going to highlight this part yellow so you can tell what I'm talking about. So here, I'm going to use the same exact formula. And if I look across from the right angle, the longest side is 27, so that's going to be C. So I'm going to erase what's down here since we already have that B is 9.9. Go ahead and erase this part. Okay, so when I'm finding this, I'm going to say, again, so 15 squared plus B squared equals, in this case, it's 27 squared. We already know when I square 15, it's 225 plus B squared equals, then we have to find 27 squared. So that comes out to be 729. I'm going to double check just in case. Yeah. So then I will subtract 225 from both sides. So 729 minus 225 is B squared equals 504. So I remember that I want just B. So B equals something. I'm going to square this and this. These cancel out here. And then 504 is going to come out to 22.4. Okay, so this side, right here, this is 22.4. Okay, great. So if I add those two numbers together, so if I have 9.9 plus 22.4, what does that equal? So 9.9 plus 22.4 is 32.3. Okay, so that's how long that diagonal straight down the middle of the kite is. But that's not what they asked for. They asked how much wood would she have left over. So she initially had a wooden dowel that was 36 centimeters. So I have to subtract that. So I'm going to say now 36 minus 32.3. I'm going to get an approximation, right? So it's not going to be an exact number. So 36 minus 32.3, and it approximately equals 3.7. Now your book actually says 3.6, but it's an approximation, so we are close enough. Okay. So that is one example. So at any point you can pause this and go back and watch it again. Don't feel like you have to keep up with me in the video. You can pause it. That's the lecture of the video. You can pause it at any time. You can go back and rewatch it. You don't have to wait for me like you do in class, or write down things really fast. So in your next example, this one's actually in your book, and this is on page 441. So okay, this is on page 441, so we'll write that down. So you have page. This is check it out number 2. So it says, in Kite PQRS, the measure of angle PQR is 78 degrees. So we'll find that. So PQR, so this is 78 degrees. And then the measure of TRS, so this angle is 59 degrees. Okay, and it asks us to find each measure. So the first one it asks us to find is to find what am I looking at? Find the measure of angle QRT. So I'm gonna use this blue. QRT, so that's this, they want you to find this. Now remember that sometimes this diagonal PR, I'm gonna highlight it here, PR, this does not necessarily bisect the angles. So just because this side is 59 doesn't mean this side's gonna be 59. Okay, so let's try to figure out what it's going to end up being. Oops. So I have 2 sides so far, 2 angles that I know about thus far. I know this part is 90 degrees, so that's a portion that I do know. And I know this is 78. In most cases, and not in all, let me highlight this diagonal QS, not in all, but will probably bisect the angles. So this is probably half of 78, but I am not 100% sure. So I'm gonna go by the example that's in your book. If I know that this is 90 here, then I know the whole triangle with R, with T, and with Q. When I add everything together, remember that the sum total of angles in a triangle is 180. Okay, so if this part is 90, that means the other half is 90. So that's what I'm missing. So this part is 90. Let's see if we get the same answer. Let's make an assumption. So let's take half of 78, assuming that that diagonal cuts it in half, or cuts Q in half. So 78, half of that is 39. So I'm going to say 39 plus something, x, some number, equals 90. Okay, if I subtract 39 from 90, so 90 minus 39, I'm going to subtract this from both sides. That's going to give me the x51. Okay, so this angle, which is correct, this equals 51. Okay, the other way I could have looked at it is I could have just added 39 plus 90, because those are the two numbers in the small triangle that I know. So 39 plus 90 is 129, and then I could have just subtracted it from 180. And that should give me the same number. So 180 minus 129 is also 51. Okay. So that means, remembering my math, this is true, that this diagonal right here, this one, does bisect the angles, the other one does not. Okay, so we have one. We have that this one is 51. Okay, so I'm going to erase that one. We found that angle. So we have two more left. So the next one is asking for the measure of QPS. Okay. So it wants this large angle here. Okay, this one is not so hard because remember that the angle across from it, remember one of the rules was that there was at least or exactly one pair of opposite angles that were congruent. So that means that QPS, this angle here, is congruent to QRS. So I have 51 plus 59 on the opposite side. So I can say 51 plus 59, and that equals 110. So this is 110. Okay, so we have one more to look for, and we have to find the measure of angle PSR. Okay, so PSR. Which one is that one? PSR. So this one right here. Okay, so given what I know already about, remember that this, I'm going to focus on this triangle right here. There's a couple different ways you can look at this. You could also focus on the larger triangle. If you wanted to focus on this part, you could. So the whole thing, you could do that. I'm just going to focus on the smaller one. So if I know that I have 59 here, this part will be 90. What will this small angle be right here? So I will say, so 59 plus something is equal to 90. So if I subtract 59 from both sides, I'm going to get a number that I don't know off the top of my head. 90 minus 59, that equals 31. So this small portion right here is 31. Now remember I told you that this diagonal cuts it in half, this angle. So if this half is 31, then this half is 31. So it asked me for the whole angle PSR. So all I have to do is add 31 plus 31, and that equals 62. all done. If at any point you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. Let me know if I can improve on these videos. I hope that you are all doing well again, and I hope to see you soon.